I call to order the meeting of the Mayor and Council of the Borough of Riverhead, 7 p.m. Regular meeting, October 23rd, 2023. I ask for a moment of silent prayer and reflection for all those who are suffering in Israel and Palestine and throughout the world, but especially those victims of that terrible assault that happened not so long ago, and especially those who were at the music concert and their families as they await their children coming home from being hostages. Ready? Salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Statement of compliance with the Open Public Meeting Act. This meeting complies with the Open Public Meeting Act by notification on January 9th of this location, date, and time to the town news and the record, and by posting of the same on the municipal bulletin board and the borough website, and filing notice of the same with the municipal clerk. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Sure. Councilman Kanigo,
Present.
Council President Kaufman,
Here.
Councilwoman Montesano Cohen, and Councilwoman Kinsella are absent with prior notice. Councilwoman Malalari,
Here.
Councilman Benson,
Here.
Mayor Papaleo.
Here. Okay, could I have a motion in a moment from Council President Kaufman and a second from Councilman Kanigo to approve the minutes of the Mayor and Council regular meeting of October 12th, 2023?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, if you need to abstain, you certainly can make that clear. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any abstentions? Any noes? Hearing none, it is unanimous. Could I have a motion from Councilwoman Malari and a second from Councilman Benson to open to the public on any item on the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
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 All right, we are now open to the public. Looks like we have Neil. I don't know if Neil would like to ask a question about the agenda. And of course, we have a couple of residents who are panelists right now. If anyone would like to ask a question, please raise your hand or make a comment. Hearing none, could I have a motion from Councilman Kanigo and a second from Councilwoman Malari to close to the public?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
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 Very good. Okay, we have appointments and personnel changes. Could I have a motion from Councilwoman Kaufman and a second from Councilman Benson to approve the resignation of Jason Hall, patrol officer in the police department, effective November 1st, 2023?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed, any abstention? Hearing none, it is so moved. For discussion, Chief, no, I'm sorry. Yeah, no, that's, I skipped the presentation. I apologize for that. So we have the presentation of the Historic Commission QR codes on the street signs. I kind of missed that one. I apologize. James, Eric, I assume you're both here for that.
That is
So
correct. Yep.
I'll give you the floor. Who would like to speak first?
I'll start. Can I share my screen too?
Yes.
Okay, let me just do that first. Let's see. Do you?
We see your screen.
Okay, I just have to. Okay. So do you see this? You see the Historic Commission YouTube page there?
Absolutely.
Okay, I'm trying to move there we go. All right, so there's, we decided a while ago to take a look at all the street names, and there's a history to them. Eric can speak about it. He's the one that did all the research, and here you can see where we've done a bunch so far. They're all unlisted. They're not on our website. I'm going to show you a couple of examples in a minute, but there's Reservoir, Lakeview, Howland, Fifth Avenue, Voorhees, Zabriskie, Tenney, and Bogart. So I guess what I'd like to do first is show you a couple of these examples, play them, kind of give you a little bit of history, how we did it. And then if you have questions, we can answer them. So this is one way of doing it. This is Zabriskie. Hopefully you'll be able to hear
This
this.
is a River Edge Street history of Zabriskie Place. Zabriskie Place is only about 2.5 blocks long, but it recalls one of the earliest families to settle in the area. The Zabriskie family, as mentioned, was one of the earliest European families settling in the area, settled in the 1630s, and they came to town in the 1740s. Later generations played an important role in our town, including the Van Steuben House, the development of a reservoir, and subsequent development of the south end of town. Zabriskie served as mayors and councilmen. It's believed that Zabriskie Place is named after John Bell Zabriskie. In the early 1900s, he collected tolls on the Bergen Turnpike. He was in charge of the trolley that ran from Newbridge to Hoboken. He was a councilman for 22 years, was mayor from 1931 to 1937 upon the resignation of Mayor Howell. He guided the town through the tough Depression years. His achievements also included the fact that he was responsible for the traffic light on Route 4 at Main Street and the bridge across Coles Brook at Grand Avenue and Main Street. He died in 1952.
That's one. Let me show you the other one, which is Bogart Road. This is another style that we could do as well.
We're standing at the corner of Howland Avenue and Bogart Road, and I'm here to tell you something about the name Bogart and the history of the street. Bogart Road is named after A.Z. Bogart. Mr. Bogart was a postmaster in River Edge at the turn of the 20th century. He was a councilman when the first council met in 1894, and eventually he became the longest tenured mayor in office from 1912 until 1929. Bogart was part of a prominent family, both locally, where they made their mark in places like Westwood, Ridgewood, and Bogota, and other places around the county, and as well as regionally. The family first settled from Holland in the 1600s, then came to what's now Brooklyn, and then dispersed from there to Long Island and places beyond. Bogart is graced by two schools, Roosevelt, that was built in 1919, and Cherry Hill in 1948. And behind me is what used to be the Cherry Hill Dutch Reformed Church. It's now the River Edge Church. This site for the Cherry Hill Church, they came here in 1952 after almost a century at its site at Elizabeth Street and Main Street across from what's now the McDonald's. Hope you find it interesting and hope we can continue to journey around River Edge together.
So let me just come back. So the idea is to take little QR code stickers like these and place them on the poles around town for all the different streets that we have here. And you know what you could see happening possibly is the schools get involved in this. Maybe they go for a little walking tour around town, and the kids could learn about the history of the streets and what, you know, the names of the streets and that sort of a thing. The thought is to take a couple and almost make it like a pilot program, because there's a couple of questions that would be difficult to answer. How long are these going to last? Not really sure. How much do we need to promote it? Well, we can promote it in the schools. Through YouTube, you can see how many people have clicked on the videos. The QR code will take us directly to our YouTube channel, and they'll play the video. So the person could be walking around town with their phone and go, oh, what's that? Scan it, and they'll learn about Tenney Avenue, or they'll learn about, you know, any of the streets that are there. And we can see after maybe, you know, a few months, 5 months or something, what happens to these in the weather. Do we, you know, are we going to have to replace them? The cost is minimal. I don't have an exact cost tonight, but I do know it's not that much to produce the stickers. They would go, you know, arm's length, within arm's length of, you know, looking at the street sign itself. I do have an example of one. I'll have to go back on my computer and find it. But I guess I'd like to turn it over to Eric, and he can kind of explain to you how he came across all the information regarding how we produce these. So Eric, if you want to explain that part of it. Eric?
You're muted. Yeah.
There, hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, hi, thanks for having me. A lot of the history came from the River Edge history books, and I guess I got practice doing the postings that I'm putting up on Facebook there. So there was an accumulation. Let me back up for a second. This is the pet project of Mary Donahue. It goes back years that she would come to our meetings and say, this would be a great idea, outside my door on Fifth Avenue. And over time, she kept repeating it, and our group embraced it. And we're now 7, 8 years later. So, on a personal level, I'd like to be able to honor Mary because this is her project, and Jim and the rest of us have sort of been trying to fulfill her mission on it. But anyway, a lot of the information came from River Edge history books, the 2 history books. And there are 21 that I put together. I think Jim was talking about, I think he posted maybe 6 or so, but we have another 15 that I've done the research for. My thought was, in terms of, Jim had mentioned the educational component. I've been an advocate of kids knowing what our local history is about, and potentially it could be an Eagle Scout project. I think that, I'd like there to be other voices than mine, and I'd like people to, let's say a Mary Donahue talking about her street. If someone is a senior citizen who's been here for 50, 60 years, maybe their voice, or maybe a school child in conjunction with their class. But I'm hoping that it's a community project, and this is, the template. As I said, there are 21 that I've recorded, and Jim's put up 6, but there are so many other streets that we can do.
And I can show, let me share my screen again and I'll show you an example I kind of just Photoshop this in. We don't actually have this on the Bogert Road sign, but you can kind of see where it is. It's not really super visible, but I think, the curious eye will see that and click on it. Especially if you instill this at Cherry Hill and at Roosevelt, and you say, okay, kids, we got to go look for the QR codes, and we're going to learn about all the different streets, and send them out with a worksheet or something. They could easily be able to get the information there. So we're thinking with your approval, we do a couple streets, maybe Zabriskie and Bogert, the ones we showed you, and see how it goes, and then maybe we can reconvene back in the spring and report on our findings. I guess, Eric, unless you have something to add, does anybody on the council have any questions?
Eric, do you have anything to add?
No, but that's it. As I said, it's a template. It's something I'd like to grow in terms of people taking pride, not just of the community, but of their streets too. I'm finding with the articles, there's a lot that people don't know, and this is just an introduction, to the community and to their hometown street.
I think they're very well presented. I have a preference for the first version versus the second version. Not that I don't love to see Eric, but I think they're going to last the time, and I think having a not a roving reporter, but the aerial view and historical pictures, and it's a smoother presentation. But that's just me. I don't know how the rest of the council feels.
That Bogert Road one was the very, very first one we did. And then it was after that we decided, let's try this with a drone. We contacted Chief Walker and he said, cool, no problem. That's great. So the rest of them are all with the drone. So we actually would be much easier to do it that way too. So I actually agree with you.
So those are my initial thoughts. Any member of council wish to share thoughts? Councilman Kanigo.
Thank you, guys. I thought the presentation was great. I really appreciated the information. I think the idea is fantastic. The only thing I would say is slow down just a little bit on the pictures so that my eyes can just like drink in these old pictures of the schools and everything that you're showing. But I thought it was phenomenal, and I love the idea of being able to walk around town and being able to like scan it and have like, I'm a history buff, so I just love it. So I thank you. I appreciate everything you're doing. I think it's a great idea, and I look forward to seeing them.
Okay.
Yeah, this is
Councilwoman Kaufman, then Councilman Benson, then Councilwoman Malari.
I was just going to say, I know it would be more expensive, but I think it would be good if you could eventually get metal signs with a QR code that would be permanent.
I think, yeah, in the beginning, we'll see how the sticker thing goes. And if this whole thing takes off, you know, instead of putting the cost out for metal, I kind of agree with you, but like if it becomes a big thing, you know, down the road, sure, why not?
And I know we could hook it back through the town website if you want at some point, so that there's more than just the video there. You could have, you know, images and text and so forth. Yeah.
Sure.
Councilman Benson.
Yeah, I just wanted to thank Jim and Eric for coming on as the liaison to this commission. It's been really exciting working with them and seeing what they're doing. And I was really excited about it, and I was really excited for them to present it. So I want to thank both of them and the overall commission, and thank the council, and just wanted to say how excited I am about this and working with them.
Thank you.
Councilman Mallory.
Well, I'm excited to see that you guys did it. I was the liaison last year and we had this talk on every meeting. So it's exciting. One suggestion, wouldn't it be better to have the codes on the sign on the street, like when it says Bogart, or that's not allowed?
I don't think you could.
That's going to be a question I'm about to pose to the chief, to Lizette, and to Tom Sarlo.
Yeah, I don't think that's a good idea.
Yeah.
So do we need to, Chief, Mr. Sarlo, Ms. Albertella, do we need it to authorize this through a resolution, through an ordinance? Because they are tagging a public poll. So is there some legal action that we need to take?
You don't need it to do it by ordinance. You know, looking at any type of approval from the mayor and council, you know, can be through a resolution. I just don't want to get it where, you know, we have to keep doing resolutions when they keep adding streets. In other words, you know, if they're adding the first 10 and we list those 10, then we're doing another resolution when they add it. So maybe we could just do a quick resolution authorizing the historic commission to QR code, you know, the streets in town.
Okay. Chief, any concerns from the police department point of view?
So I just learned about this today. And Jim and Eric, you guys it's awesome that we have people like you to keep our history, as you know, Jim and I go way back to kindergarten, right, Hooks?
Right. Yep.
From a police department perspective, I would like to, I just need to look into to make sure that it is okay to post things on the signs, unless Mr. Sarlo feels sure about that. You know, for example, we know that our signs actually are not regulation size right now. All the towns are going through that. Nobody's jumping to change all their signs because of the cost. We all obviously think our signs are fine, but we are regulated with certain things. So I think that I'll have Sergeant Diamond bring it to his traffic people and just make sure that there's not a concern with putting any of these things on there. And I'm assuming that since the mayor and council gives the permission, that you also have the ability to say no at a certain point to, you know, because I don't know how many special interest groups come up, and the next thing you know, we have, you know, 20 QR codes on there for different things. So I'll leave that, you know, that's just a thought. And the only other thought, again, I like to, you know, digest it a little bit and bring it back again, but you know, the street signs are right there. They're right at the street. You know, and you know, that grass median between the sidewalk and the street is actually a safety buffer. And you know, engineering wise, it's there for a reason, because it keeps people at a distance from the street. It actually keeps them safe. I don't know if there needs to be a concern about, you know, are we concerned that kids are going to be hanging around the street signs with their smartphones, not paying attention right there? Are they going to be in the street, or are they going to be right there? You know, the street, if they were in 5 feet, I feel a little more comfortable. And again, I don't know if that's a concern or not, but it's just something that comes to mind, and I'd like to just digest it a little bit, and also just make sure that we're not you know, violating anything about signage, unless, again, I'll yield certainly to Mr. Sarlo if he has some knowledge or intel on that.
Mr. Sarlo.
Yeah, no, it's look, by all means, take another look at it. An extra set of eyes, making sure we're doing things the right way is good, especially from the law enforcement perspective. You know, it's on the pole, it's not on the actual street sign. So Obviously, we just had that discussion. I would not feel comfortable having it on the actual street sign. Having it on the pole is a different, different from a legal standpoint. I'd say it's, to me, not an issue, but we certainly can look into it further from the chief side. If something on the pole, is not enforceable.
Ms. Hapertella.
I have no comment. I yield to Chief Walker's recommendation to look into making sure there's nothing that violates any regulations that we may not be aware of at this time.
I'm going to go to Councilman Kanigo in 1 second. I'd like to make a suggestion, James and Eric, for you guys to think about. I would like to recommend that instead of you doing a small little square, I recommend you doing a vertical item if the chief and Mr. Sarlo are okay with it. And it would say Historic Commission, and it would have a border, and at the bottom would be the QR code. That way people wouldn't see it and say, oh, that's just somebody tagging, because people are always tagging posts and pull. But if you had Historic Commission as in vertical letters, and then at the bottom the QR code, people would then know that it was safe to activate the QR code. And I think that might be better than, and it probably stay a little bit better on the pole. But we want to make sure, we want to give the chief some to think about that. And so we want to invite you back. But before you guys comment, I wanted to go to Councilman Kanigo.
Just because the chief smartly pointed something out, I just wanted to make clear that my support is for this QR code project for the Historic Commission, because the Historic Commission is part of municipal government. I would not be in favor of allowing a whole lot of other, town clubs, committees, commissions to be like putting QR codes all over the signs, so that then we get a mess of QR codes on street signs. This is for this one project, which I think is great, and it relates to the street signs themselves. So just to address what the chief said, I think that was a great comment, but I think we're talking about a very limited scope here.
I would agree, and I think the council would agree too. James, Eric, any comments of any of the things we've said, including what I had said about making it a longer item to put on the post?
The design can be changed, that's not an issue. So in moving forward, should we wait a month? Like how long, when would we get the go ahead to start a pilot of a couple streets? Should we wait a month for you guys to sort through the details, or?
Could you be ready by the next council meeting?
Sure.
So
Absolutely.
Okay.
we come back and would you please put them on the agenda, and you guys can come back and maybe
Okay.
with the mock-up of the long one and the small one. And
Well, we could do, we could make a few different designs and take yours, and I don't know if we come up with any others, and
yeah, I'm not saying mine's is good. I just think a simple square would not draw people's attention, and they might not know that it's an official QR code that they could trust.
Okay.
Yeah,
can
so
do that.
whatever you guys can come up with, and we just put you on the agenda for the next meeting. And Lizette, if you can come up with a resolution that that would be vague enough that we wouldn't have to come back and do more streets, but sturdy enough resolution that, as Councilman Kanigo rightly said, and I think the council all feels this way, we're making a one-time exception for the Historic Commission, which is, a borough entity. Is that everyone comfortable with that? Just nodding is good. Any more business? All right, James, Eric, thank you for coming. I think this is a great idea, and we should hopefully be able to get it up at the very next meeting. Well,
Great.
authorize at the very next meeting.
Fantastic.
Thank you all. Appreciate it.
All right.
Good
Thank
luck,
you.
guys.
Thanks.
Okay, Chief, we're getting a lot of good use out of you tonight. We have the crossing guard post recommendations.
Sure. So You guys approved Bogart and Reservoir, correct? That one's done. Okay, good. So we're looking at Summit and Webb. All right, we did studies over there. Sergeant Diamond did a study. We had guys out over there counting the number of kids crossing, and our traffic trailer was over there, and that calculates very detailed the amount of cars per hour and direction and everything. And the numbers over there indicate that we need to put a crossing guard over there. Some of it came because of some of the changes the school made about their drop off that caused quite a bit more traffic up on Summit. We have to adjust to that. So we are set to have it painted. The DPW, Jason's going to take care of painting the intersection. We'll have to put some additional signage up there that indicate there's a crosswalk. And we do have a crossing guard right now. We're nonstop with an ad for crossing guards. And right now we're doing okay. So we will be able to put a crossing guard there with your approval. All right. I don't know if you have any questions about that one.
Any member of council, please raise your hand. Council President Kaufman.
Just wondering if we need to really address this during budget season, since it is going to have a budgetary impact, rather than now. I'm not sure.
So, Chief, is this a matter that requires immediate attention? In other words, have there been injuries?
Yeah, no,
incidents?
Good question. Yeah, no, we would listen. I wait for another school year or something, but it's something that the amount of traffic that's on Summit right now is I couldn't even tell you how many more cars there were than last year. There's the dynamics of them wanting all the kids to come in off the Summit basically caused this. So the congestion over there with the kids crossing, we've had parents come forward, and again, I've had officers out there just counting the students and looking at the cars. So you're getting cars that are coming south on Summit from Linking, and they'll back up past Webb, and then you're getting cars east on Webb, so they're coming to that that T there, and they need to cross, but they're coming together as a T, and everybody needs to go south. So right now they're locking up the intersection because I don't have an officer to put there because it really calls for a crossing guard. So I don't know that I would feel comfortable leaving it for purposes of, and the number, I don't know where we'd have to prorate it out, but crossing guards about 18,000 a year. You're looking at somewhere around there.
Chief, I don't want to cut you off, but I know Councilman Kanigo would like to make a comment or ask a question. Are you okay with switching to Councilman Kanigo now?
Absolutely. And then I'll talk about the other one after.
Okay, Councilman Kanigo.
No, I think the chief answered Michelle's question. We have to address it now, and it's important that we address it now. And our resident safety always comes first for us. So absolutely, we'll address it now.
All right. We could vote on it separately or together, but first let's hear the chief's comments about the second site. Go ahead, Chief.
So the second site is Wayne and Bogart, where we have one crossing guard. But what has taken place at Cherry Hill this year is we expanded the drop off in front of the pocket park. We because they did the sidewalks over, it enabled about 3 or 4 more spots going northbound. And in addition to that, the school added personnel out there in the morning for drop off. So they have expedited the drop off, and we've had more cars pulling in, which is a good thing for drop off. However, now you have more cars leaving, and what's happening is they're hitting Wayne and Bogart, and it was tying up pretty bad there. And with one crossing guard, what happens is we have the students basically trained and parents to go north and south on the east and west side, right? So if they're coming up Wayne, they all make a right and they go south to the crossing guard in front of the school. If they're coming from the north, they'll stay north on Bogart. They're coming south from the north end of Bogart. They'll stay on the east and west side. They don't cross east to west or west to east, all right? And that's a good thing because it allows for the traffic to go. And it allows for one crossing guard in front of the school to let everybody cross, all right? The same thing happens at Howland. He crosses north and south. Nobody goes east to west. All right. We started that training years ago. And it's pretty, the people do a very good job with it, I'll say. But because of the increase of the traffic coming off, what occurs now is the crossing guard, he can stay on either side, right? If he goes in the middle, which he can do, he has to lock the intersection up in order to manage the north and southbound pedestrian traffic on both sides, right? He can't be on both sides at the same time. So the only way he can manage both sides is to go in the middle. And if he goes in the middle, he has to stop the north and southbound traffic. Otherwise, he's between the cars, right? And you wouldn't be able to see him. So what we did is, and we've seen this in other towns, where we said, let's put a crossing guard on each side. And we did a case study with it for a couple of weeks, with it, without it, and we monitored it for those 4 weeks. And sure enough, what we're seeing when we have a crossing guard on both sides, the traffic flow can continue. It doesn't have to stop. And the pedestrian traffic going north and south on each side is safe because there's a crossing guard on each side. If he was to try and say, all right, let me do so many people on this side and cross the other side, they're not going to wait. It's just not going to happen. They're going to cross, or the kids are going to cross. And that wouldn't be safe because that is undoubtedly one of the busiest intersections with traffic in town.
And it's big too. It's like it's a slightly bigger,
big,
wider intersection.
And when you
I live
look at
around the
it,
corner, so I've been crossing it for years.
right,
It is.
when you look at that intersection, when you look at any intersection, but an intersection like that that's busy, often you just think, well, there's just 4 corners and there's only 4 things. There's actually at any given moment with a crossing guard in an intersection, especially when it's busy, it's somewhere around 26 to 28 different variable possibilities going on. Whether they're left turns, right turns, straight pedestrians going, either way, you just keep adding that up. So it's not as easy as it looks. That's why the crossing guards deserve a ton for what they do. And unfortunately,
Jim used to have his head on a swivel in that intersection when he was over there.
Who's that?
Jim.
Oh, Jim. Well, Jim was also 7 foot tall and he was a bit intimidating. So we missed him, but So that's what we looked at, and we're looking to put a second crossing guard there. It works with what's going on and it keeps it safe.
Councilman Kanigo?
Yeah, like I said, I live around the corner. I've been walking my daughter and son to school since I think 2002. So I cross over that intersection at Wayne, and it's always been a problem crossing it. It just takes a long time. And the crossing guards are always overwhelmed. Like you can tell, and they always do a very good job. But I certainly agree with the chief, that it could use a second guard over there. So I agree 100% from just, like I said, 20 years of doing that.
Okay.
Crossing
Any other member of council wish to offer a comment or ask a question? Hearing none, could Lizette, do we need to do a resolution, an ordinance? Can we do by unanimous consent at this time?
Well, for the first one on Summit Avenue and Webb, that's not in the code.
Mhm.
So since we already have a resolution listed for introduction to post, to create the crossing guard post at Bogart and Reservoir, it could be introduced as amended to also include Summit Avenue and Webb. As far as for this intersection on Wayne Avenue and Bogart, since it's already codified, it just needs consensus.
All right, so we need to do 2 separate. Let's start with the second one, since that one just needs resolution. Could I have a motion from any member of council to do Bogart and Wayne, correct?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay. So Chief, you're authorized to hire and place someone there immediately.
Thank you.
Now, the other one, could I have a motion and a second to modify our current, Lizette, it's the current, today's ordinance, right? 23 dash, no. Is it 23-20?
Yes.
Okay, to modify 23-20 at the appropriate time to include Web and Summit. Is that correct?
So
Correct.
moved.
All, could I have a motion in a second?
So moved.
Second,
All those in favor of at the appropriate time today, moving ordinance 23-20 as amended, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstentions? Hearing none, when we come to 23-20, we will move it as a, okay? But we'll need someone to make the motion to amend it. Isn't that true, Lizette, according to Robert rules?
It would just be introducing it as amended. It wasn't, if it was at a hearing point, then you have to have a motion to amend and then go back to the original.
Okay,
Can we just do it now? Can we move it up on the agenda?
oh, we could. Is the council willing to move it up on the agenda?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Could I have a motion second to move ordinance 23-20 as amended? The ordinance is amending and supplementing the revised general ordinance of the Borough of River Edge, Chapter 192, drug-free zones, in order to include a crossing guard at Webb and Summit. Lizette, did I say it correctly?
Yes.
Could I have a motion in a second?
So moved.
Okay,
second,
so moved by Council President Kaufman, second by Councilwoman Malari. Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Are there any opposed or any abstention? Hearing none, it is unanimous. So we have just moved our first reading ordinance 23-20 as amended. Okay. Chief, anything else?
No, I'll be talking to you guys. Just give you a heads up. I'll be talking about promotions because of the retirements, just to put that in your head. And with these crossing guards, just keep in mind as things change. You know, I talked to Kathy and there may be a change at Roosevelt again in another direction. We'll critique it. And if we don't need the crossing guard, then, you know, we've done that before too. We've taken crossing guards, hey, we don't need you anymore. So I just wanted you to know that because it's fluid, what's going on, we're gonna keep an eye on that.
Good, good. Chief, we do have a couple of things that were coming up for discussion. We have Chapter 400 Borough Code, we have best practice inventory, and we have the new plenary retail consumption license. I'd like to move item number D without objection. Lizette?
The Chapter 400 are two other traffic issues, but these are just recommendations on adding a stop intersection on River Street and adding more streets that to prohibit illegal U-turns.
Chief, would you like to comment on those?
Sure. So the one is a stop sign. River is down off the center. It's that street that goes off the middle of center and goes down by the railroad track, right? There's houses that are down there. And there is no stop sign when you come out of there. We have a few streets in town where there are no stop sign at intersections. And that's okay. But this is one where some residents have pointed out a concern because I guess some people are coming out and they're not even slowing down. So we don't have an issue with that, putting a stop sign there. It's certainly not, it's not going to hurt anything. It would just be for you guys to put it through and we'll put a sign up.
Chief, when the mayor was Ed Mignon, he had talked about warrants and he had said, we had had a discussion about stop signs, about bumps on Continental and stuff like that. And Mayor Mignon had said that as an engineer, as an engineer of Fort Lee, that us adding a stop sign, us adding a bump up as required us to meet certain standards, which he called warrants, if my recollection is correct. Do we have to do that in this case for a stop sign in this area?
I don't know in this particular area that we have to. Again, it's something that I certainly would let Sergeant Diamond take it back to his traffic people, but it's a dead end. So it's not a traffic impact area. Whereas if we said, you know what, we're going to put one on Continental at Elm for east and westbound. That would be traffic impact, right? This is more just because unfortunately people are just coming out of there and causing an unsafe condition. But in, you know, it's not, you never have cars, you're not gonna have cars backed up there, let's put it that way. So I don't think it needs to you know, have any major study on it or something. This is just for residents in the area concerned about it, and you know, we're okay with it.
Mr. Sarlo, are you in agreement that this doesn't require any sort of study or warrants or action before? I don't want us to put a stop sign, then someone gets a ticket at a stop sign, and then our borough judge saying this was not appropriately placed.
Well, I'm sorry, yeah, it has to be done appropriately, so it would be, you guys are bringing in that it would be all state, it gets approved. So that when we do go to court, we can say it is a state approved.
So there is a process where it would be approved before it went up, other than us. Let me go to Mr. Sarlo. Mr. Sarlo.
Yeah, no, I believe, yeah, there is a process, and we have, yeah, I think maybe want to check with Mr. Casa, but one of them would require DOT approval or county approval. It's either the speed bumps, or maybe not the speed bumps, but the stop sign. So we would, and we'd have to, I'd have to look if we have to do it by ordinance, but you can't just put a stop sign up. That's correct, Mayor.
Yeah.
You need to have the authority.
There is a process, and it does get approved by the state because, you know, for the reasons like you said, you know, which we would take care of doing all that is the point.
All right, well then, Chief, could you begin that process and just make sure that when, and work with Ms. Apertola to, we need to do an ordinance, a resolution, what proofs we might need to provide. I think the council would, before this, I can't imagine the council being against this. I just want to make sure that the process we use is flawless, if that's okay.
There is a process, sure.
All right. Is the council comfortable with that? So Chief, if you bring it back next time, hopefully whatever ordinance or resolution that we might need, Ms. Apertola will be ready to, and we could literally, not literally, figuratively walk it in and approve it. I just want to be double sure that it's defensible from Judge Randazzo's. And if you want to reach out to Judge Randazzo, I think that might be a good idea too. Okay, Lizette, the next would be best practices inventory. Would that be?
Not yet. The next one is still under chapter 400, deals with the U-turns, is adding about 5 or 6 more locations to prohibit U-turns.
Chief?
Right, so I'm just pulling up the list. Yeah, so this is really what Sergeant Diamond was doing. So we were looking at Summit Ave in particular because of the congestion there. What's happened is the cars going southbound, they have to make a right on Continental, and when they make a right at Continental, they hit the crossing guard, so it backs up. So what parents are now doing, or they're doing their K-turns on Summit, which is, it's not a good thing because there's cars parked on the northbound side. We may have to address that, but we're trying to stay away from addressing that right now, changing any parking regulations there. But we do see a need to address the U-turns there. In doing that, Sergeant Diamond looked at the existing code that we have, 400-21, and he realized that we're missing a few streets on there that really should have been in there, I guess. And a lot of them have to do with school areas, because that's where you're getting the most violations that are concerning. It's congested. There's people that can't go anywhere, and then there's somebody that goes, I'm just getting the hell out of here, and they do a U-turn. And it's not something that's easy for us to enforce because you can see it, but it's tough. We just we're not in a helicopter, so we can't get to them sometimes, or we're around the corner and it's happening when the officers as they patrol around it. So it included the specific areas are that were added, because I believe there's 6 in place under 400-21. Webb between Summit and Elm, which is again a crossing guard. That's Roosevelt, the north end. Basically what we're going to do is we're going to go around Roosevelt, because we recognized we can't enforce it. So Webb between Summit and Elm, Summit between Lincoln and Continental, Oak between Continental and Webb, and Continental between Kinderkamack, really all of Continental. We see that there's, that street's too busy. And as much as the speed limit is 25, we know that we do have some speeding issues there. So allowing U-turns there it just makes sense to put it on the books. Hallen between Kinderkamack, same thing. Hallen shouldn't have U-turns either. And Woodland between Fifth and Elm is the school one. All right, so those are added ones. Again, what Sergeant Diamond did is he just observed and he said, hey, you know what? I can't believe we don't have these covered. They really should be covered. So when we addressed Summit, he just started taking a look at the several areas of concern. All
Well,
right.
I think that's wonderful, but I just want to make sure that these, that when we issue tickets, that they're defensible. Can you add that to the list to check with Judge Randazzo and make sure that when we, this would.
Yeah, it's more so the state, we go through the county and state and we get it approved. And what the judge looks for is he looks for that from us. And basically that happens with, right, an attorney asking for, discovery on our part. Was that approved by the state or county? And then the judge goes, was that approved by the state or county? And then we show it to him.
Okay, so then maybe we don't need to wait a week or 2 weeks until our next meeting. Perhaps we can tentatively approve the moving forward.
For the
then
process, I
the
would agree.
process.
Yeah.
That'd be great. Councilwoman Kaufman. Michelle, I think you're froze. You're back. Council President Kaufman.
Just a quick question. Do you have to have signs go up immediately, or is there a time to get through the whole county and state approval process before the signs would go up?
Yeah, so we would get all the approvals in place and then we put up the signage. The signage comes last.
Okay, and just how much would those cost?
We'd have to take a look at that. It's something, we're coming towards the end of the year. So if we have money, if I have money at the end of the budget to cover it, that'd be great. If we don't, then we could look into, hitting it right in the beginning of next year, because we need a little time to put it all together.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Councilman Kanigo.
Sorry, just where would the signs go and what would they say?
So they would say prohibited U-turn, and you would do it at the beginning and end of those areas. So like if we take Summit Ave, if you came onto Summit going northbound from Continental, there'd be a sign there, just one, because obviously if you pass that sign, then you're good to go, right? And there would be one coming from the from the south right after Lincoln. All right. Now again, so you have an intersection, so you'd have to put one at the intersection so that people would see it.
Just and I have no objection to any of this, but I'm just curious. Like, so there's a sign that tells me prohibited U-turn as I go into Summit. So that means for the entire length of Summit until I leave River Edge, or is there a sign saying end of U-turn prohibition?
There generally isn't an end of.
So like if somebody's like at Midland and they decide, oh, I got to turn around and go back home that I just left, and they make a U-turn right there on Summit at Midland, that would the sign from the school would still apply to them on, a mile.
Yeah,
a mile and a
it's
quarter,
actually a good
mile
question,
away.
Dario, because generally we do whole blocks. So that's what I'm familiar with, right? The whole blocks that we do. So I understand your question, and I'm gonna have to say, let me look into that and see how you go about ending it. Because it would end right. It would end at Lincoln if you go northbound.
I mean, I would manage just because of the safety for the kids and everything that a U-turn there would be like difficult. What about like Fifth Avenue? Is that one of the ones that's contemplated?
Fifth Avenue, I believe, is no U-turn. I'd have to look at that. Yeah,
We do already have it?
So here, I got them in front of me actually. Kinderkamack from border to border, Bogart from Route 4 to Continental, Fifth between Howland and Midland. So now Fifth between Howland and Midland, it's on the ends, right? So listen, it could be.
Okay, yep. Okay, no,
Yeah,
that's good. You answered my question. Yeah, no, I got you.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
Good.
Chief, if I remember right, let me rephrase that. My understanding was that a prohibition sign can only count for a certain distance, and then another prohibition sign must be presented. That's why you see no parking signs every,
Right.
I don't know, 50 feet. Wouldn't that also apply to no U-turns?
I would think so, but I also know that you don't have to litter the whole roadway with them, because as an example, Fifth Ave, you don't see them every block. You know, and keep in mind, this is, you know, this is an enforcement thing. It's not like you can say no U-turns between this time period, because generally that's not the case.
Mhm.
But you're gonna, this is for the sake of the drop-offs that you really is going to be a point. So it's not something like we're gonna put a you know, an enforcement out there that's looking to, you know, just to make it tough on residents. You know, I think there's going to be a discretion point there. That's like, hey, you know, your uncle came down on a Sunday and made a K-turn or something, U-turn. It's all right, I get it. But we're looking at when it's, you know,
It's a public safety hazard.
when it's really a safety issue. That's how it came to light, right? It's because it's we see it over there and we're like, oh, we got to do something about this.
Council President Kaufman, I think you had your hand up.
I guess I was just wondering, out of curiosity, does anybody automatically monitor stuff like that with cameras now, U-turns?
Monitor in what way? Like me?
Where people are doing it when they're not supposed to be.
Do you mean like a resident
red light
or law
camera.
enforcement? I'm sorry.
Like a red light camera, that kind of thing.
Oh, you know, I'm sure there are cities that have, you know, red light cameras that do different things, but that wouldn't be really practical for us. I mean, I'm adding some cameras around town, but for reasons, for investigative reasons, or to make sure, you know, we can see shoplifting areas and things like that. I can't imagine, you know, putting them
Okay.
up for U-turns. We start turning into a city.
Okay, thank you.
Councilman Benson.
Hi, Chief. Is there what kind of communication goes out when we do something like this? Because I could see people all of a sudden seeing all these no U-turn signs, and like you said, the uncle on Sunday making the K-turn, they're going to be like, oh my God, everyone's going to get a ticket. Are there flyers sent out? Is there a letter sent out?
So, I mean, we certainly will put it on our website. You guys will put it out. We'd ask you to put it on the borough website. And it also starts off at something where, you know, just like the beginning of every school year, right? We give it a couple weeks. We make it known, and people will see the signs, the residents will see the signs, and then the word of mouth goes. We don't start off with like, hey, guess what we put up yesterday? You just turned around. You know, we're more, you know, there's a discretion point. Now, if you know, the school zones, again, we probably could be hitting them right now with careless, because the manner where they're going about it is careless. But you know, when you really look at careless, the judge will look at that and go, you're pushing what is a no U-turn and making it careless. And you could go so far with that. You know, you have to have the appropriate, what's really appropriate to enforce is ideally what you want. So we would put it out there, and we're listened, right? Just it gets word of mouth in town. It gets out there pretty quick. People will hear.
Councilman Kaniga.
I guess my question is, why can't we limit the timing though? You said we can't limit timing. If we're trying to like address issues with safety for certain zones and we know when those issues arise, why can't we just say no U-turns?
You know, we can look at that, Dario. We certainly can look at that. You know, I'll talk to Sergeant Diamond. You know, generally he, you know, I yield to him. He puts these packages together. I ask him questions, and he's so good at it that I'm lucky to have him.
Let me just explain my thinking and why I'm thinking this way is because thinking to all the years I've lived in town and all the places in town I've been, you know, whether with kids sports and with other parents, people make like these kind of U-turns or K-turns all the time in our town, not during, you know, like school times. I mean, I know they also do it during school times, but what I'm saying is, it's not that I'm saying they should do it during school times, but it just seems like if we're going to start doing this and it's unlimited in basically the distance on the roadways and in time, then we're just like severely, once again, then we're just going to have our town that you have to just kind of make 4 turns every time you need to go anywhere. And I want to stay away from it if we're doing this for the specific reason. That's all. So I'm just like thinking out loud here.
No, I hear you. Certainly.
You know, like,
I mean, we could look at it to see if it's out there to do time limit for U-turns. Generally, you know, U-turns in these areas, when you look at these blocks, like Continental, right? Howland, those are areas where I don't really see a good time to ever be okay with it.
Agreed. I think there's a differentiation between certain roads and
Right.
certain roads. Yeah, absolutely. And I'll leave that all in your good hands. I'm just like thinking out loud. I'm not
No, I
trying to stretch
appreciate
this
that,
out.
because if we can, I agree with you. I know, you don't want to over restrict if you don't have
Yeah.
to. So we can take a look at that and see if it's feasible.
So I
Thank
want
you.
to lend my voice to Councilman Kanigo's point. I think, I see signs that saying during school hours, you can only drive 20 miles an hour all over the state and all over the country. Why couldn't certain U-turn signs be no U-turns during school hours? And
Maybe
that
they can.
Yeah.
Maybe they can, maybe they can't. I don't know.
Yeah. So, but I simply mention that because, instead of thinking about listing the hours, we just say during school hours. That way, someone would not be ticketed for making a K-turn or a U-turn during the summer when the school isn't open.
Yeah, you still have to define that a little bit when you make your sign, if it's gonna be school hours, because there's always somebody that's gonna, allege they don't know what that means.
And look, the chief is also talking about specific areas in town and taking, for example, the Summit area. I know that then there's beyond school hours, for example, in the winter, we always have basketball. The little kids have basketball
And
there.
they do the same thing, yeah.
And they do the same thing. And that's actually probably when it's most dangerous, because it's those fall and winter months where it's dark early, leaves on the ground, bad weather, sight lines are terrible. And then people are doing these illegal turns during these hours, which would be technically off school hours. So if we're going to do this for the purpose of safety, then we have to account for that as well. So I see the chief's point on the other side as well. And again, I throw it out there, but we have to account for everything.
Maybe
So.
If it's permitted, September through June be the time that we limit it.
Right. Yeah.
But I think, is the council, just real quickly, nod your heads, is the council agreement that we want the chief to move forward with this? Okay. Do we need to take any formal action?
No, the ordinance would be listed for the next meeting.
All right. And Chief, you'll double check with Judge Randazzo and just to make sure that he's comfortable with what we're about to do.
Yeah, again, it's more what the judge really looks at us to do is say, hey, did you guys get this approved with the county and the state? That's what he looks at. He doesn't necessarily get it. He's not going to get into giving an opinion because he's the guy that makes the decisions on it.
Okay.
So,
Then very well.
yeah.
Is that it for amendments to chapter 400? Lizette? Best practices inventory. Does that have anything to do with the chief?
No, but the next
I know.
item that the borough clerk will present does involve the police chief.
Yeah. So I want to move without objection to move to 9D and return to 9C. Is there objection? Hearing none, it is so moved. Ms. Dodd, would you please speak to the new planetary retail consumption license?
Sure. As a result of an inquiry that Mayor Papaleo received, I was asked to look into whether we had the ability to issue a new plenary retail consumption license based on the most recent census. I reached out to we currently have 3, and for every 3,000 of population, you're allowed to have one of these licenses. And the most recent census, we have a population of just slightly over 12,000, which means that we are entitled to have 4. I reached out to ABC to confirm whether we needed authorization from them before we could move forward, and I was advised that that's not necessary. I also looked at our code to see if there's any limit on this type of license, and there isn't, thankfully, which means we won't have to amend our code in order to proceed. There's 2 different options to issue this a new license, and the option that I'm recommending is the public sale option. It seems to be more advantageous, and it's more frequently used. The municipality will be able to retain all of the funds that are derived from the sale, with the exception of the annual state fee of $200. In order to do so, we would have to adopt a resolution which to indicate our intention to issue a license through this method. And it would also set the minimum bid amount, which in consultation with the borough administrator, we're recommending be set at $250,000. We would then need to advertise in the newspaper twice an invitation to bidders. The notice would have to appear 1 week apart, and then the applications could be received a minimum of 30 days later. There are some steps in the interim, but ultimately we would issue the license to the highest qualified bidder. I spoke with a municipal clerk in another municipality who recently went through this process. I was able to obtain sample resolutions and a sample notice, so I have a template to utilize. He also shared that he used their online auction vendor to conduct the sale. And I relayed this information to Ms. Appertella, and she confirmed with GovDeals that they would be able to do that for us, and we were recommending we go that route. We're still trying to iron out the timeline, so we're not quite ready to move forward. That would involve the police department because there are, we do have to determine eligibility of the applicants, which would require a preliminary background investigation, which I consulted Chief Walker today, and he said, depending on how many applications we receive, that would determine how quickly they could turn it around, but it probably would be fairly quickly. We just wanted to get a consensus tonight whether you would like to proceed so that when we are ready and we have those details ironed out, we can list the resolution and start the process.
So I was approached by one of our very active River Edge attorneys. The attorney told me that we were over 12,000, which I knew, and that we had this availability. And that's why I reached out to Ms. Dodd. Chief, do you have comments?
No, Ann had spoken to me earlier today, and the way we discussed it, there's I guess she's looking at, there's a preliminary part of it where we're just making sure, I guess, the applicants that you're looking at or fit a certain criteria. Once an applicant is chosen and then they give us their full application, that takes a period of time, but that would be after you pick them. Like we get that now. So we have liquor stores, really the two on Kinderkamack that will change ownership every now and then. And it's a very intensive investigation. We look at their finances, the tax returns, everybody that works there. It's very in depth to make sure that, you're getting legitimate people working there. So that would be the second part of it though, I think, right? And you're looking for, hey, here's a pool of 12. Before we even look at them, can you just make sure we're not getting anybody that's, a thief or something, or has a criminal record? That we can do fairly quickly. That we can turn around within a couple of days. And then we would go into a more thorough background investigation. You guys would be all about where you want to put it and that kind of thing. Certainly you can ask us. We have Total Wine, so that's obviously the gigantic one, right? I don't know that there's a competitor to them that would come in, but that would be a concern, right? If there was another, a Lowe's to Home Depot, right? But as far as putting one on Kinderkamack or somewhere around town, those two little guys, they stay alive, but there's you got the Home Depot of liquor with Total Wine.
So the question before I open it to council, to you, Lizette, and to you, Ann, is, given the constraints, given the process, is this something that we could accomplish before the end of the year? And if not, would we have to would we have to restart the process in January? And if that's the case, should we wait to January? So the three questions are, can we complete the process? Do we need to complete the process? If we do we have time to complete the process if the council has an interest? And if not, then the council would decide on whether it wanted to do the process in January. Also, I spoke to the council president. Depending on the answers that Ann and our clerk and our business administrator give, then we as a council should also consider its impact on the budget. If we can do it before the end of the year, is that a great idea for us, or would it be a better idea from a budget process to wait until the following year? So I'll let Ann and Ms. Dodd and Ms. Apatola, if you could speak to the issue of process.
Based on the information that Ms. Dodd shared with me, I don't think we have enough time to complete it this calendar year, but this isn't something like an ordinance being introduced before the end of the year and then it dies. You know, anybody could walk in with a transfer application now and the process takes several months to be finalized. So this can carry over into next year. And I mean, by the time the eligibility application is done and the notices go out and everything is done, we probably won't be listing the auction until January, late January at the soonest. And then the funds are held by the auction house until we receive clearance from the full investigation. And so we don't have a time constraint. It's just that it doesn't die at the end of the year like a lot of actions that is normally taken throughout the year. So, and it is kind of late in the year to start the process and guarantee it would be done by December 31st.
Excellent. So that really answers all the questions of process. So now we open it to the council. Any member of council would like to raise their hand and speak to whether this is something we want to do. I mean, the plus side is it would give the borough an extra $250 or more $1,000 into our budget, operating budget, right, Lizette?
It would be deposited as miscellaneous revenue.
Okay. So, and that would be pretty free to be used for operations, or would that be frozen until the next year?
It would be deposited as revenue and then enter into surplus.
Okay. Okay, great. So any member of council would like to speak to this? Should we move forward with this to see where it takes us, or should we not move forward with this? Councilman Benson.
Mayor, by the way, I apologize. I wish I could raise my hand, but I'm on my cell phone.
No,
so I
no,
can't
raising your actual physical hand is much
Okay.
better.
I just had a quick question. So it's $250,000 if we for someone to purchase this license from us, assuming we make it available. Do I have that right?
That would be the minimum bid that we would set.
The minimum bid. And that's for, it could be a Total Wine, it could be a small liquor store on the corner.
This is a consumption license, which means that it would be a restaurant that would be purchasing it.
Oh, it's a restaurant.
Mhm.
Okay, I see.
Yeah, usually the liquor licenses that are liquor stores, those are distribution licenses. On average, those sales are in the 100,000s, unless you are in a place like Fort Lee where liquor licenses go in the millions. And based on both Ms. Dodd's and my history in dealing with liquor license transfers, usually the 200,000 range is where sales are conducted. And the Toms River clerk had recommended to Ms. Dodd, don't go too high. So, I mean, they generated about 700,000. East Brunswick received 450,000. It's just the more information we could put out there to garner interest, then, you know, let the bidders have at it, as long as they're eligible bidders.
And so we could have restaurants in our own town who don't have this license put a bid in for it.
Yes.
Yeah, and can I make an assumption? Was this sort of an inquiry from a current restaurant, or we don't know?
No. As I said, Councilman, we have we have several attorneys in town who are very active in their process. And one of those attorneys approached me. I don't want to say who right now. I mean, people can certainly open it if they want. But there's no reason to point out who said this. And so I assume that the attorney has individuals that are interested. And that's why he brought it to me. And it was a fair request for me to move forward on. So we do what we're supposed to do, and that's why we processed it. Ms. Apatola.
And just to give some background, our state's liquor license laws are very antiquated. They're still from the Prohibition era. So anytime a municipality reaches that threshold, after a census, after a decennial census, a lot of people look at, okay, did they move up the extra 3,000 level? Or for a liquor store, did they move up the extra 7,500 level? And until the state changes the laws, we have to work with Prohibition era regulations.
Okay. I mean, I don't see any downside to it in the sense that it's for a restaurant and yeah, so it makes sense unless the chief does. Yes, chief.
So,
Sorry,
yeah, Councilman.
Sorry, Mayor, sorry.
Councilwoman Coffin had her hand up next, but Councilwoman, if you don't mind, I want to, give preference to the chief. Is that all right with you? Go ahead, chief.
Thank you. Yeah, and I'm sorry I missed that in the beginning when you said it was gonna be consumption. So I agree, my mind quickly went where Barry's went, which is, it could be easy if it's one of our restaurants in town to just pick it up. That would be an easy move. But I guess we'd have to think about if it's consumption, is it going to be a bar? Is it going to be, we're gonna have concerns there where we're having 1 a.m. bars or 2 a.m. bars. So we'd have to take a look at that as compared to a restaurant where they're closing at 10 p.m., 11 p.m.
Well, we can also tweak our ordinance before we put it out to bid, so that anyone who wants to bid on it would know that. Because I don't know, Chief. You might want to look. Do we have an ordinance that allows a bar to be open in River Edge?
Sure, with Feathers. Feathers is open late.
Okay, but Feathers can be grandfathered, and we could change the ordinance. We could have Mr. Sarlo. Could we change our ordinance about liquor license bars before we go out to bid and not run into the trouble we ran into with the 7-Eleven and the 24-hour?
You want to change your zoning ordinance?
Yeah.
Yes, you would have to change your zoning ordinance. You can certainly change your zoning ordinance, correct?
And then if we do this before we put it out to bid, there would be no claim of unfair treatment as we had with the 7-Eleven, correct?
7-Eleven history spoke for itself. We learned from that.
Okay. That's why I'm bringing it up.
So yes, this is the right way to do it.
Ms. Apatella.
The hours of operation don't fall under zoning, they fall under the alcoholic beverages portion of the code.
But you want to restrict bars in a certain area. Was that your question?
Well, we might want to do that, but we would like to change it so that we do not have a bar permitted after, say, 10, 11 o'clock.
Yeah, that, I think I agree with Lizette. I'm sorry, I thought you misspoke that it was changing the actual the bars. So the ABC controls, or your establishment, that ABC controls the hours of operation. We have to look into that.
But we could, if we could do that, could we change it so for all new licenses and leave Feathers grandfathered?
Yeah, so they're grandfathered in, that's correct. So even if you changed it, it wouldn't apply to them. That's correct.
Chief.
But,
sorry, Tom, I didn't
No, we'd have to look to see if we have to change it for the entire town or if we are able to change just for one area.
Okay.
Well, we don't know the area though. I mean, that's the thing. So we would have to change it for the whole town and grandfather whatever businesses we want in.
Well, anyone that holds a liquor license now would be grandfathered in.
Correct. Right.
Chief, you wanted to say something?
I think Tom basically answered it, is whether or not we can do the grandfathering, because we have the diner, but the diner is, they have a full ABC. I think they can sell packages. They have the hostess and they have a bar, but they closed now. They used to be 24/7. So it would be Feathers, but as long as you feel comfortable that you can say, hey, we're grandfathering these guys. And we used to have Beamers right in the middle of town, for those of us who remember Beamers. There were the Madison, there were a couple of bars that we had there, and yeah, that becomes, I have to look at that and go, all right, we're gonna, it's a bar, it's gonna produce some concern every now and then. As compared to a restaurant, like I said, that's closing at 10 or 11.
Excellent. Councilman Kaufman, I'm sorry it took so long to get back to you. Council President.
No problem. I see no problem with this as long as it's for a restaurant. So presumably we'll do whatever we need to do to make sure the law is in place.
So, Alderman Kanigo.
Yeah, as a member of the finance committee for the past 7 years, I'm doing backflips, hearing that we're getting another license. That's great news for the borough. I mean, we should, of course, we should pursue this with everything that the chief has said, obviously in mind, any way we can. Hopefully we'll get a good restaurant to add to our great restaurants here in town. And hopefully we'll get some serious cash for this bid, because River Edge is a great place for businesses to come. So yes, absolutely.
So, if it seems like just a quick nod, is everyone in general agreement that this is something you want to move forward with? Okay, good. Then could we leave it this way? Mr. Sarlo, Ms. Apertola, and Chief, could the three of you work at, and if you can't get it done by the next council meeting, then the one after that, can you please look at whether we can let me rephrase that. Would you please offer a recommendation to the council regarding its concerns about a bar being open after 11 and not spot zoning, but changing our overall time limits? Lizette.
I recommend that Ms. Dodd reach out to the ABC to
Excellent.
see if that restriction can be put in place even with the grandfathering, because any applicant can appeal to the state about this. So before enacting anything, it's best to find out from the authority that would hear an appeal.
Okay. That would be great. I think that's what we should do. Could the four of you converse and come back with a recommendation and parameters for this body at the next meeting, if possible? All right, that sounds great. Chief, I think that's all that we need you for. You're certainly welcome to stay. We appreciate it. Any comments before you go or before we move on to the next topic?
No, thank you as always, guys, for supporting me with these changes that we need to make.
Okay, cool. All right, so our next item is best practices inventory. Ms. Apertola.
Yes, this is an annual exercise. The state requires municipalities to fill out survey questions, and the number changes year to year, and some questions are unscored to be a little bit of a fishing expedition. So what it does is if a municipality doesn't reach a certain threshold, their final payment of state aid is reduced. So for this year, there were 67 questions, 49 were weighted and 18 were unscored. The minimum to have no aid withheld was to answer 29 questions in the affirmative or not applicable. And we scored 39. So, and this is due November 3rd. We completed it. Chris, Ann, and I worked on it. And once we received it on October and in the beginning of October 2nd, on the 12th, we filed it already with the state. Just the final requirement was to discuss it at a public meeting and go over what our results were and whether or not we were in jeopardy of having any state aid withheld, and we were not because we far exceeded the minimum results.
Excellent. Any questions from any member of council? All right. We have a proclamation. Could you please move Preeti into the panel? Just 1 second. I'm trying to pull up a post. 1 second. Huh. Frustrating. Just one more second. I apologize. I should have done this before and I forgot to. I want to try to show the oh, hold on. No. I apologize. Just give me one more moment. Okay, I should be able to pull it up now. No. So I'm sorry, Preeti. I'm going to have a problem putting the resolution up on the screen. I had hoped I could do that. But it does look like I'm having some connectivity issues. Try one line. Ah, here it is, I think. There it is. Download. And let's put it in Burrow. Okay. And good. And let me just find it now. And it's in downloads. Okay. So I should hopefully be able to bring it up. Let me try doing that. So I'm going to share my screen and files. Nope. Nothing but frustration. Well, I apologize. So I think everybody knows Preeti's, what's your last name? I forget.
Hariwal.
And she has organized the 6th annual Indian Day celebration, correct? The Diwali celebration, Festival of Lights, New Year's. And it was a spectacular success, I think. I was there with Council President Kaufman and Assemblywoman Swain and Assemblyman Tully, and it was a great event. And I wanted to read the proclamation here on during the council meeting. So Preeti, I'm going to read it into the record, and then if you, I'd be really welcome you to make some comments and share with the residents any words you might have. Okay.
Thank you.
Proclamation. Whereas Diwali, the Festival of Lights, is the largest and most anticipated holiday in Indian tradition and is celebrated every autumn during the Hindu month of Kartika. Did I get that right?
Kartikeya.
Thank you. Whereas Diwali is celebrated over 5 days, each with their own significance and traditions, with the rituals of highest importance occurring on the 3rd day. And whereas Diwali also marks the beginning of the new year, which is celebrated by families gathering gifts and other traditions, as well as the worship of Lakshmi. Close?
Lakshmi.
Thank you. The Hindu of wealth and prosperity. Whereas Diwali's oil lamps called diyas are lit to signify the belief that light will overcome darkness, goodwill prevail over evil, and love win out hatred. Whereas the holiday is a uniting force, as it is celebrated by the majority of the people from India, regardless of their faith, and is celebrated by more than 1 billion people worldwide. Now, therefore, I, Thomas Papaleo, Mayor of the Borough of River Edge, on behalf of the council, recognize and celebrate the significance of Diwali and encourage all residents to take this opportunity to celebrate and learn about Indian culture. Preeti, if you could offer us some words and talk about that, that'd be great.
Well, you said it so. It is a beautiful festival of lights, celebrating the triumph of goodwill over over darkness. And today, in fact, is a very auspicious day in India. It is the 9th night of the goddess. It is celebrated again all throughout India. This actually marks the beginning of Diwali. And tomorrow is Dashera, means the 10th day, where from your heart, like we burn the evil from inside. And anything, just let it go. And after that, after 11 days, the night of a no moon falls, which is Diwali. So Diwali is a 5-day festival. It begins on the main day is the second day, which is third day, which is the no moon night. It always, so it could fall in October. It could fall in November. It could fall mid-November. It could fall end of October. There is no specific date. Like, for example, Christmas is birth of Jesus, which is December 25th. There is the Hindu calendar works on the movement of the moon and the sun, and that's how all the festivals are denoted in the Hindu calendar. So it is a lovely festival. You will hear a lot of fireworks. This year it's falling on November 12th. It is a Sunday, but you will hear fireworks from my house and other houses in town. We gather. I mean, thankfully now fireworks are legal in New Jersey to be, we could burst them in our driveways. There are fireworks available for Diwali. In previous years, I had to gather my fireworks during 4th of July and keep for Diwali. Now I don't. I just buy them near Diwali because Costco sells it. Targets, every store sells it for Diwali, and they're called Diwali firecrackers. So it's everywhere. There is, it's just an honor to celebrate it because our motherland is India. It will always be India. We were born in India, but this is my home country. This is where I live. So celebrating this festival, it's been 19 years in US, and celebrating it over here and cherishing the rituals with the family, it's home away from home. It's like, how do you see culture? If, for example, you are brought up in United States and somebody puts you in a workplace in China or in India or in Japan, how do you preserve? For example, Thanksgiving originates from here. Like, it's so much into the American culture. How do you savor those Thanksgiving values in a country, for example, like Japan, or for example, like China or India? You would need to celebrate with your friends and family. And if you are given that soil to celebrate, there is, your heart just warms. So that night when you all came to honor, it was everybody's heart was full of warmth. So thank you so much. And the Senate and Assembly, they gave the citation, which is so lovely, that in recognition of, I'm going to send you a copy, Mayor Papelio. It is so lovely to read. I've almost read it 10 times since that night to people, and it is just beautiful that they recognized us in preserving the Indian heritage and culture over here, the Riverdale Indian Association.
So I think I can now actually do the hold on there. I think I can everybody see it?
Yes.
All right. So so that's our proclamation, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to return it to the borough clerk, and you can pick it up from her. Okay. Sure. And we are glad to celebrate with our residents of River Edge, but I think it was also with Oradell, right?
Yes.
And because every member of our community makes our community a little bit richer and brings the treasure of their experiences and just improves us as a culture and a society. So Preeti, thank you. I'm going to return that proclamation to the clerk, and you can pick it up from her, okay?
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, all of you.
All right, round of applause.
Thank you. And all of you are welcome to join next year with Mr. Papelio. He'll be there.
Yes.
And Miss Kaufman. Miss Kaufman has always been there, always danced. I don't know why she left early that night.
We had another event to go to. I'm sorry.
Okay, but she would never leave without dancing on Bollywood. Like, she would dance more than us. She would. Everybody is welcome. And thank
I
you
think
so much for
That's worth
coming and
seeing. We
finding.
definitely have to go and see that.
Yes.
All right,
Thank
good.
you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. And can I leave?
Yes, you can.
Thank you. Have a great night, everyone.
You too.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
All right. Well, that was wonderful. All right, so we are back. We finished with the practice and inventory. We've done the first reading. We're up to resolutions. So could I have a motion and a second? Oh, first of all, is there any resolution that any member of council would like to ask a question about or have a separate vote? Apologize. No? All right. Okay. I'm having so many problems with my computer right now. I apologize. I need one more moment. For some reason, things are acting up and don't know why that is. Okay. My agenda fell off for a moment. Could I have a motion from Councilwoman Mallory and second from Councilman Benson to move resolutions 23-291 through 23-294?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
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 Could I have President Kaufman as the Finance Chair move 23-295 and one member of the Finance Committee second?
Resolution 23-295, payment of bills at a regular meeting of the Mayor and Council of the Borough of River Edge, County of Bergen, State of New Jersey, held on October 23rd, 2023. Be it resolved that the Mayor and Council of the Borough of River Edge approve the following expenditures. Current fund, $1,096,310.23. Capital fund, $9,493.56. Grant fund, $1,718.50. Animal Control Fund, $9.60. Trust Other Fund, $5,911.74. Payroll Fund, $17,221. Developers Escrow Fund, $2,911.50. Recreation Trust Fund, $1,345. So moved.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed, any abstentions? Hearing none, it is unanimous. Is there any new business from anyone? Is there any old business? Ms. Abertola, can you, just for the council's benefit, update us on where we are with the Borough Hall repair and renovation? You're muted. Good.
The building permits were issued on Friday. And
Right.
so the contractors received a notice to proceed. And tentatively, going off of the prior schedule, it is anticipated the project will last through June. It all depends on product availability, like the HVAC systems are out about 27 weeks. And we're looking into having to replace the elevator because we were just notified last week that all the components for it are discontinued. So that's something we're looking into as well.
All right.
But that would be done at the same time. It won't hold up the project.
All right. Any member of council wish to ask a question or comment? All right. Ms. Abertola, I don't know if you're prepared for this because I didn't tell you we were going to ask it, but I think we're moving ahead as well with Voorhees. Do you have any updates?
Yes, I spoke to Mr. Flores earlier this evening, and he said that the contractor will be done with installing the second chamber this week and will perform regrading. Then next week, he will be performing concrete work depending on the weather. But considering this week is a good week weather-wise and hopefully a weekend without rain, we could progress as much as possible with Voorhees and our other projects.
Excellent. Any member of council have a question or a comment? Any old business? Seeing none, could I have a motion from Councilman Canigo and a second from Councilman Benson to open to the public on any comments?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any member of the public who'd like to speak, offer a comment, ask a question, please feel free to raise your hand at this time.
Does not look like there are any comments.
Okay, could we have a motion, a second to close to the public from Council President Kaufman and a second from Councilwoman Mullery?
So moved.
Second,
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any member of council wish to offer comments, an update report, or anything else connected to their liaison or anything else?
Since Indira's not here, I just wanted to remind everyone, Halloween for the kids, Saturday, 2 o'clock, Memorial Park.
Yes, and normally the council takes stations and hands out the candy. So if you can be there, please be a little bit early so that they can organize the stations. Anyone else? Right. Could I have a motion and a second from any member of council to adjourn for the evening?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Well done, everyone. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.